gotta move. Oh, they both go down. Tom Vialle defends his title. Cooper Webb is the 2025 Monster Energy AMA Supercross champ.
What a weekend in Salt Lake City to wrap up the 2025 Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship, part of the SMX World Championship. It was wild. Welcome to Title 24, presented by NBC Sports. Happy late Mother's Day to all of our mothers that listen to the show. I know you were at the track on Mother's Day, so
yes, I was.
Hopefully Kristen went with you guys. Pretty mellow day for me. Before we get going, got a great show today on the recap of Salt Lake City crowning the 250 East Division champion. That was wild. And of course, Cooper Webb entering rarefied air and getting his third Supercross championship. United Motorsports, Quad Lock, Boxo, Dunlop, and Cardo. Thank you guys for all the support. Great partners of Title 24. But first and foremost, before we get into the United Motorsports moment of the week, RV, before we went on air, everyone listening today, I didn't get to see RV and Brax and the family.
No,
I saw the results. We were like in break and we were doing some stuff, so I couldn't watch the race. I saw the results. So give us a rundown on what went down at the KJ.
Yeah, no, it was good, man. It was good to be back in Salt Lake. I don't think I've been back to Salt Lake in many years for Supercross. That is, so good to be back. That's a cool town, cool city, good stadium, hotels and restaurants all around very close. So yeah, we flew in Friday. I jumped out, did the bomb hole podcast on Friday, and then Saturday was at the track 7 a.m., which was the call time for Brax. So got there early, rode well. It's very interesting to see, as I'm bringing the boys racing and see them develop, as you can already tell, I can already tell, like that confidence thing, like he showed up there. Because I had to tell him, I said, everyone here that's on this gate has won a KGSC race. That's why you guys are here. So dealing with the little, dealing with this mental 8-year-old brain, he came into there already beat himself up, thinking that he couldn't win. So that was interesting for me to have to work around with an 8-year-old, but he rode well. He got better every time that he was on the track, and I enjoyed it. And then we jumped on a flight right after Brax's main event and flew back to Orange County and raced Sunday at Paulus. So it's been an action-packed weekend for us, and glad it's kind of over. Get some time to chill out this week, I guess. Until
not until tomorrow at Paris.
Paris Mini Night, yeah, and then I fly to Redbud, I think on Thursday. For the Blue Crew event out there. So should be a blast. Yeah, it's on the go still. Very busy. But no, I'm looking forward to it.
Dude. It's keeping you busy and your mind occupied. Look at I feel like you've done outside of the boys racing. I feel like you've done a lot more this year as far as sponsorship and ambassador obligations. So it's like as soon as the boys are and their racing is picking up and you're all in on that, and then now compile all the other stuff.
I know you gotta try to weave it in, man. You gotta try to weave it in, and I'm trying to do that the best I can without blowing myself out. But no, it's been good. Looking forward to it. But yeah, we had a hell of a night Saturday night for qualifiers, main events. It was hot, guys. It was a hot weekend out there. I think it was pushing 90 there at Salt Lake. So the boys were through qualifying practices, heat races, and then it obviously cooled down for the night show, but it was an action-packed day with some heat involved.
Hey, I was watching some qualifying practices on the start there, like where the mechanics were. RV, bro, how dusty was it with the wind blowing? Oh my!
It was, yeah, it was tough for the track crew to try to keep the moisture in it, but they did a phenomenal job. Once the sun kind of set a bit and the stadium created that created the shadow, it was a bit easier to keep the moisture in it, and it also started to come up. So yeah, we'd go down on the pit lane there, during practice, and yeah, it was just marbly. It was like parking lot material. So yeah, very slippery, very technical, tough track to ride.
Are you guys one last question on Braxton Gage? Are you guys when is your regional qualifiers?
It's coming up here. It's in I think we got our regional at Paula in about 3 weeks, I believe. So we'll see.
Go rent that track out, dude. Like,
Yeah, I know, right? They're getting ready for actually I think they have 2 practices left at Paula, and then I think the venue will be shut down for obviously getting ready
oh,
for
that's right. So you guys would be almost directly the weekend after the national, right?
I believe so. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So should be good.
All right. Well, good stuff. Way to start the show. Like always, we're gonna go the big talk. Well, there's a lot of big talk, but I think the biggest, just because of the rarefied air that he's entering, which we will circle back later on the show with that. But the United Motorsports moment of the week for sure is Cooper Webb in his third Monster Energy Supercross championship, and watching along. He's got his little daughter on the bike for opening ceremonies, but no surprise. I mean, definitely what he had to do and where he needed to finish is what was well within the leather. I talked about it on the broadcast. If you haven't, go check out unitedmotorsports.com. Get all their stuff. They are an incredible company. They're in the Kentucky, Ohio area, so you can go in their stores also. But anyhow, Coop, again, RV, no surprise, I don't think, to you or to me. What of an overall summary, what did you think of him throughout the year?
I thought Coop was phenomenal. He didn't start off super well, like I think West Coast swings, we've talked about it. He's talked about it, like get through kind of West Coast. And we've all talked about that, like we've mentioned Daytona being like that kind of halfway point, put yourself in a good position there. But what I saw was he executed throughout the entire season. He put himself in a great position with a 9-point gap coming into Salt Lake. And basically he was able to just ride it in. And that's what we kind of saw, right? When you have that 9-point gap, when you get to Salt Lake, you get to the last round, your goal is just to finish kind of where you need to clinch that. Especially when you're racing a guy like Chase, that especially in all of the last three or four rounds, Chase has had Coop's number on speed, but Coop did a phenomenal job at managing the series and putting himself in a great position coming into that last round with 9 points in a low stress situation.
Yeah, he killed it. And one thing that was impressive this weekend that I thought he did really well, RV, is his starts were phenomenal. So right out of the gate, he put himself in an excellent position.
Excellent. Yep, you have to. Yeah, heat race, main event, right? Like that's probably the most critical part, being in his position with that 9-point gap. Like just not botching the start, because in his position, if you put yourself up front in the heat race and also on the start and also the main event, like basically you just have to manage that race. But botching the start, putting yourself outside the top 10 or having an issue in the first turn, that's when the chaos kind of starts to happen. But you were right, Ricky. He executed both gate drops perfectly and made his night easy.
Yep. No doubt. Hey, so a couple fan questions in regards to the United Motorsports moment of the week. Tom Lazaro, is it harder to win back-to-back championships or with a gap in between? What for your personal experience?
I don't have a gap in between. So, but I think when you start stringing off back-to-backs, I do think the first one for you is tough, but in a different scenario. It's you're trying to win your first 450 first 450 Premier Class championship. So that has its own set of challenges. Once you win that first one, now it's trying to repeat it. And I think for me, going 4 in a row, each one got a little bit harder. I think it's the human nature in people to start to almost second guess, even though your program hasn't changed or your program's actually gotten better. You start to think about who's going to knock me off that top step. So I think that, I do think it's a little bit easier if you have easier. I don't want to use the word easier, but yes, I think if there's a break in the championships, I think that's where you have a reset when you lose a championship. You have to go back to the drawing board, figure out why you lost, where you lost it at, and try to improve that. So yeah, that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, I think for me it's twofold, RV. I think the first one is difficult because you don't know, you've never been in that situation, so it's uncharted waters.
Yep.
I don't know what to expect. So in that regard, it's for me it was difficult. But outside of that, like going back to back to back, like you went back to back to back, you never had that gap. I had the gap, but because I sat out in '04, but then I came back and I won in 2005. So even though I didn't race, I had that little bit of a gap. But I don't, for me personally, I think that it's not necessarily the gap that makes it difficult, or a non-gap that makes it difficult. I think it depends on who you're battling and what the
Mm.
situation is what makes it harder than rather
Yeah.
going back to back or not going back to back. So like for me,
Yeah.
and right.
Yeah.
So
I
for
think
me
it
and
depends
for
on
me
your
and
competitor.
yeah, right. Exactly. So for me, like 2001, like outside of the mental thing, the mental side of it and not knowing what to expect and racing the king of Supercross, I mean, I had plenty of speed. I had the consistency. I won a bunch of races that year. I think I won 13 or 14 races, 13, I think, 13 in a row, and 14, I think, total. I think maybe it was one of the two, but it was I just didn't really know what to expect, but
Mm.
physically it was pretty easy. Whereas 2002 RV, I knocked myself silly at the first round, so now I'm like 25 points back and didn't get evened up until Daytona. Villiman sat out, so we were kind of like dead nuts after that. And then 2003 was super difficult because Reedy came on strong, and he was faster than me. So like they were all different. It really had nothing to do with the consecutive years of winning
Mm.
championships. So
Yeah.
like similar to what you said. Great, Tom, or great question, Tom. Like, yeah, I think that RV just hopefully answered it good for you for both. I think it's really situational as far as what makes it difficult and what makes it maybe not as hard as years previous or
Yep.
after. Last question for the United Motorsports moment of the week would be Mezza 39. Both of you, what is your most memorable championship? Go for it.
Well, I think for me, I in the premier class, they're all very memorable, but I think the very, very first one, right? Like, I think that's the probably the most memorable because that's your goal that you've been shooting for your entire life. And finally, once you knock that one down, for me, anyways, that was huge. And like I said, I think they kind of for me got almost tougher as they went on the three after winning that very first one. So I think for most memorable would be probably that very first one.
Okay. Yeah, for me would be 1997, my first pro motocross championship, but we're going to stay on the thread here. And speaking of the premier class, and it would be 2001 Supercross championship because I mean, my first 2 years, I sucked really.
Yeah.
I missed a lot of the season in '99, then 2000. I think I got fifth in the championship, got a handful of podiums, and I won Daytona, but still way off the mark of what I had been accustomed to doing, especially in the lights or the 250 division beforehand. So definitely 2001. 2000 was five was also special. Came off the ACL repair, RV, and then in between that time, signed with Suzuki. A lot of people said it was a career-ending move, and
Mm.
Suzuki hadn't won a Premier Supercross championship in a very, very, very long time. And I was racing Stu and Chad's up against some good heat. So those, I would say, those two in the Premier class were probably my favorite. So
Yeah. I mean, 2011 was my first. So 10 is when I blew my leg up at St. Louis. Came off of that and went straight into 2011. And so I'd say same for me.
yep.
My first championship.
Sweet. Thanks for that, Mazza. Good question, and Tom as well. So that's the United Motorsports moment of the night. If you haven't, or moment of the week, I should say, go to unitedmotorsports.com slash title 24. Enter your email. You get a $15 credit towards your first order. Then, like we talk about every week, after that, you'll automatically be entered into the weekly drawing for a $50 credit on your next order. So get that done. Everybody likes a little chatter and a discount. So get after it. All right, switching gears. The 250 recap. Not sure if you were able to watch much of it, RV, because you were busy with
Yeah.
Brax, and then I understand how it goes. So it was a wild weekend. The 250 West Division was already wrapped up. We knew that, but man, what a hell of a race, and a turn of events, some stuff that I wasn't expecting. I mean, Deegan he dominated, right?
Yep. Yeah, we kind of talked about that last week. Coming into that last round, at Salt Lake, having no pressure, having his championship already locked up. He rode phenomenal, put himself in a great position, and was able to. All the action was behind him, right? Haiden rode very, very, very well, but man, it was everything behind him. Second through, back was a massive race, and a lot of action. Guys going at it with Juju, Seth, RJ. It was a good night of racing, that's for sure.
Yeah. What before we get into the racing, Cole Davies crash and qualifying, dude. Luckily, that's not the only thing that was wrong with him. This was a brutal impact.
Totally was.
I mean, where are you at with this? Like, do you have
honestly? I mean, I think I don't think it was Jordan's fault, really. Like, if I had to, if Cole's my kid, right, and I'm sitting there watching what happened, my only complaint with what had happened is, yes, he tripled onto the tabletop and cased it a little bit, and then really came to a pretty slow stop, which obviously, the rider behind there, Jordan Smith, was already in motion. He was in the rhythm section. So if Cole would have just rode it out, rolled right here, and then doubled instead of coming to a very, very crawl on the track, obviously that would have, he would have avoided getting hit like that. So I doubt he'll do that again, from Cole's standpoint. But just a total bummer, because he was on rails. Towards the end of this season, he's been riding super, super well.
Hey, let me ask you this, because we talked about comms and how it could potentially be used, especially from a safety perspective. Why is he freak 250? Asks, could the Davies and Smith crash been avoided using helmet communication, Cardo? Like
like a Cardo system for sure. I think that depends on your spotter, right? Like how quick your spotter can relay that message to the rider. As obviously, as we just watched the replay, it happened pretty quickly. So yes, if the spotter happened to be watching or was paying very close attention and was able to communicate that Cole slowed down that much, yes, I think that could have helped.
And that's what your spotter's responsibility should be, is making sure he's watching your rider and the people in front of you and behind you as well. Hoping that someday we are able to get this implemented into professional racing. That's the beauty of it. And the safety aspect of it is having that spotter and knowing, like, hey, okay, if I'm Cole's, I'm role playing here. If I'm Cole's spotter, I'm like, hey, stay to the right. Jordan's on a fast one, because as your rider that you're spotting for, you're watching him, but you're also looking at stuff out of your peripheral, and you're going to know that the 19 is on a fast lap as well. So it's like, hey, Cole, you messed up. Stay to the right. 19's on a fast lap. Boom. Cole stays to the right, and Jordan doesn't make contact with him. I think
from both sides, right? It's from both sides, Cole's spotter and Jordan's spotter. Yeah. So you could have both, right? Cole's spotter could be, hey, you got Jordan coming with a fast one, get over, or vice versa. You have Jordan's spotter calling out that Cole just botched the rhythm section, slowed down, pay attention. So yes, I think that potentially could very well help for sure in the future. Now, I think you got to figure out, like, it's going to take time, right? That's the biggest thing. It's going to take time on riders learning to have having that spotter in their ear, being able to make quick reaction, quick moves based on the spotter, right? So something the riders aren't used to, and then obviously we have to develop good spotters.
Yep, 100%. I think in most situations it's going to help. I think there's going to be circumstances where, it's not going to be able to help, but I think more times than not it's going to be a help. Would it have helped in that situation? I think, yeah. I mean, there's like we just broke that down. So there's a place for it. I'm bummed for Cole, man. Like, he had the fastest lap at the same time, and yeah, it's a shame that happened to him. So now, he broke his nose and broke his arm.
Yeah, humerus. So I presume that'll be, I bet 2-month recovery time for him,
Yeah, that
so
sucks.
yeah,
Sucks for the fans too, but most and foremost it'd be Cole, because now he's gonna, being a rookie and the knowledge he would have learned in the Pro Motocross Championship early on, he would have been able to pay that forward next year. But
yes.
he's had a hell of a season, right? I mean,
Yeah.
dude is legit.
No, riding very well. So total bummer there for Jordan and Cole. I was really looking forward to see what Cole had for outdoors. We don't have a ton of video or really any data on Cole for outdoors for pro motocross. So like you said, that's going to be a little bit of a, I think not, I don't want to use the word issue, but it's a bummer he didn't get out to do won't be able to start pro motocross this year to see what that's all about, so that next year when he comes out, he's swinging for a Supercross championship and also outdoors.
Yeah. Overall, he got out of it pretty well with his Harley, right? Like, thank goodness. So we're thinking about you, Cole. Real quick though, like, just to share some flowers. Deegan's helped out facilitate a private jet ride for Cole and his family to get to Vail, so Cole could have his surgery there.
Nice.
At the Stedman Clinic. So, I mean, I know, like, listen, whatever happened went down in Denver, but behind the scenes, where maybe in away from racing, where the things that people don't see, Deegan's had someone who had a private jet in the Salt Lake area, and they donated that to get Cole there. So, well on you. Good on you, Deegans, for doing that behind the scenes. Shout out to them, right, brother?
Yep, that's huge. It's especially being, nose, humerus is a tough bone to break. That's the big one in your bicep. So definitely you're going to have to get that one fixed, but to fly private up there and not have to deal with commercial and security is massive when you're all banged up like that.
Yeah. So, all right. So the 250 East Division with Vialle, Hammaker, and Hampshire. First and foremost, before we get in there, what do you think of the ride and what happened before we even got to RJ and Hammaker situation? Where were you at with the championship and how it was going and what you thought was going to happen?
I didn't think it was action packed, right? So as I watched the main event last night on the broadcast, it was, and also while this was all going down, I'm getting, texts back and forth. Mitch is on the verge of winning. He's currently sitting in a position to win the championship, and then it gets, it gets turned upside down on him. RJ also put himself in a position where they're both on the ground, and then Tom coming back with only one win on the season to secure another championship for himself back to back. Dude, it was a crazy night. The track promoted pretty good racing. I thought the rhythm sections were really quick. As we're watching the replay right now, RJ just came in underneath Seth. I feel like Seth should have kind of knew that anything's a go, anything can happen for this championship position. It wasn't dirty. He came in and ran him high. It wasn't the angle wasn't bad, anything like that. It's a bummer all around. Bummer for Mitch, bummer for Seth, RJ also, but the cream always rises to the top, and it ended up being Tom Saturday night.
Damn, dude, that's a hot take. So you were okay with the move, and like,
I mean, I think, look, as we're watching replay again, he didn't come in blazingly quick, right? He didn't come in and just blow him out. I think the stupid part on RJ's side of that was he put himself on the ground, right? Yeah. Like it didn't work out for him. The move that he was trying to pull, didn't work. put them both on the ground, and Seth lost the championship, and so did RJ. So, from that standpoint, I think it was a bonehead move, because you're supposed to, if you're going to run it in like that, you got to make sure you get out of it, so that it makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, I said the same thing in the broadcast, RV. I was like, it's an easy position to be in. Like, obviously RJ was coming up through. He was,
And I think RJ was quicker, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was gonna say, dude. Like, he came from behind, passing all these dudes. So now you can imagine the excitement in where he is at, right? Like, he's catching guys. He blows by Tom, then he catches up to Seth, and then you're like, oh my gosh, the intensity level is there, and then like one thing after another, and so it'd be easy to do a move like that when you have all this momentum going, and you don't take a second to just breathe and let it play out and let the pass kind of come to you without taking yourself out. So I understand. I feel like I have an idea of why it happened, but at the same time, I said, like, dude, the last thing you can do is take yourself out while you're trying to do another guy dirty. And yeah, they handed it over to Tom.
Yeah, he did, and it was interesting. Interview afterwards, Tom kind of had written it off. Like, he totally he wrote off that championship. He didn't have the speed to run with Seth or RJ. But obviously, as we watched Saturday night, RJ came in, took Seth out and himself out, and the cards fell into Tom's lap pretty much. So tough situation to be in. But like you said, Ricky, it's pretty easy for that stuff to happen when you get a little ahead of yourself.
Right. The emotions are going, and you're just like a ball of fire. And I think like you had to expect that for sure, a move like that. But at the same time, RV, you can't take yourself down. There's no need for me to break it down any more than that. But on the way to that actual move, so Juju is riding well.
Yeah.
We got a fan question here. Jeremy_Smith 28. What's your thoughts on team tactics, and what would you and RV do in a situation that Juju is in? I don't know that I've ever been in a situation that Juju was in. So my initial reaction to Jeremy's question is like that is my initial reaction. I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little more.
Yeah. We kind of brought up the team tactics things last week, right? Like, I've never really been in a situation where there was team tactics played, or like from what I got to watch, Juju was fighting for positions, but also didn't probably make it very easy on Seth, right? Like, ran Seth wide after the triple. Seth was able to get him back. I think that Juju was riding very well Saturday night. I think the track conditions, how dry it was, how hard pack it kind of was, promoted to his riding style, being from out here on the West Coast, Havasu. He knows that hard pack stuff. So he was riding well, and put himself in the middle of those boys. Like, he's not going to let Seth go by, or his teammate, right? Like, meaning he's going to fight for that position. If he would have been faster than RJ, I think he would have went through RJ and went up to the front, or tried to go to the front. But that didn't happen.
Yeah, I understand team tactics. I mean, especially from a brand perspective. I wish that my thing on Juju, I was a little bit bummed about it, and why he went the route he did with Hammaker, because at the time, and maybe I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt here, maybe he didn't realize that Tom was basically had surrendered it from what it looked like. And you already talked about it. Like, Hammaker was gone, dude. He was rolling on down the line, and that messed him up. So I think from that perspective, if he had done that while Seth was trying to come up through the pack and Tom was already ahead of Hammaker, I think it changes the dynamic there a little bit. Still doesn't make it right, but it changes it. Where this was a little bit more blatant looking, I feel.
And once again, back to comms, right? Like, if you got spotters telling him, hey, Juju, just fight for yourself. Tom's behind. He's not running the pace you guys are running. All of those things I think could have played a factor into it, if we had calms.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So yeah, that was a good question, Jeremy Smith. Appreciate that. Hopefully that gives you some insight what RV and I said. Yeah, they laid it up for Vialle, but you got to give it to Vialle. Actually, all three riders, they both rode phenomenally. I think that Hammaker, outside of not winning the championship, RV straight up, and you look at how well he resurrected his career. I think this is just as good of a win. Yeah, he doesn't get the title. I get that. But, dude, you have so much to hang your head high about. I mean, the guy was incredible.
From previous years, yeah, like call it most improved, if you want to say it that way. Dealing with injuries in the past, what it would show, every now and then, some amazing rides, but more times than not amazing. But for him to come this season, come back out swinging and put himself in this position, changed up his entire program, went out to the dog pound, rides with Hunter Jet, works with Burner.
Yep.
I think that right there has totally changed. So now for me, like looking, because I'll be honest, like, Seth's been on the team for a while. Like after his second injury, I'm like, man, really? Like, Mitch, you hired him again? Really?
That's what I thought, dude. Like I said this week, I'm like, I can't believe he got another opportunity.
Yeah, no, seriously, I kind of thought that way too. But it shows you, if you keep digging, you keep trying, you keep pushing, you keep your eye on the prize, it'll come full circle, and it did this year. So now I'm very interested to see, obviously, if he stays healthy through outdoors, what's Seth going to do next year? I think he's established himself as a title contender. I think he's mentally in the right place too. I think this season has put himself with his race wins and the performances as he put out on the track has dramatically changed him mentally. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do with that for next year.
Yeah, same. I hope that I think you use this motivation again, a lot to be happy for. Roll it in the Pro Motocross Championship. So you got RJ, who defended his championship, right? So now he can't do any more 250 divisional races. So he's going to have to get moved up for sure. Vialle. So he's done. Do you like, what do you think of like Vialle? So now he's forced to go to the 450.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, especially if you just go off of a stats level from this year, his Supercross season this year. Like, he rode well. But I don't think he rode great. He's got one win to his name this season in Supercross. But as you know, as we've talked about it, it's like beating a dead horse. Like when you move to the 450, it's a completely different motorcycle, workload, travel, the whole thing, and racing those top guys. So I think Tom's got his work cut out for him on the 450. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It's going to be interesting to see. So RJ's doing the 450 in Pro Motocross.
Is RJ doing Pro Motocross for 450?
Yeah, did you know that? Yeah, he's
I
doing
saw him riding it.
Yeah. We talked to Nate Dogg, and they've been doing like once a week so far. I believe it was as up to now on the 450, getting ready. So now he'll transition 100% to 450. I'm guessing. I know that RJ's been excited to get on the 450. So if you're going to be watching the Pro Motocross Championship, that'll be something fun to watch his progression. Although I don't know about the wrist. Remember, he had that wrist issue. So maybe he needs to have, I don't know if he's going to race the first couple. I don't know. I haven't done my homework there. So, but he is going to the 450.
Yeah. No, I think he'll ride the 450 well. I think the biggest thing that I see is we saw it this for what was it?
Last year at Daytona, he raced the 450.
Yep. Yeah. Last year, but to the mistakes point, like we saw him make a huge mistake. He had to go to last chance qualifier. You make those mistakes on a 450 typically. It hits you hit the ground harder. Things like, there's just so many more things that can happen with the 450. So cleaning up those mistakes for RJ is what I think is what he's going to need to do. And maybe the more you can always say, oh, maybe the 450 I was, easier to ride. I never say it's easier to ride, but maybe he won't have to try to squeeze as much power out of the 250, and maybe he's able to ride the 450 a little more calmer, and that'll make him a little more consistent. But that's what I see. He's got the speed, the fitness is there. It's going to be the consistency.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Transition on to the 450 recap. Again, Sexton looked pretty good, and a convincing win for sure. He's looked pretty sporty the last few weeks, but just comes up short, dude.
Yeah,
sadly.
It's starting off this. That's why the beginning of this Supercross for 450, beginning of the Supercross season, and the mid part of the season is so critical to make sure that you have put yourself in a position to race for that championship at the end of the season. And what we saw was a 9-point gap coming into Salt Lake, and Chase has had the speed on Coop the last 3 or 4 rounds of 5 rounds of this closing part of this 25 season. But it just wasn't enough because of the mistakes that were made prior in the season. And Coop's a dog, man. You can't give him an inch because he'll take a mile.
Yeah, he just, you talk about, what makes you the best rider. And I think it's all around, it's not always are you going to be the fastest, but I think it's a combination. We talked about it. You got to have the speed. You got to have the mental toughness. You got to have the consistency. You got to have the knowledge, the experience, all of that stuff, the mental fortitude. But I want to give a shout out to Chaso, and he told us last week, midweek, for our TV broadcast, is he worked really hard on late in the race, not making the silly mistakes that had hindered him of winning championships the previous years. And I feel like he made a huge advancement in that area of his game. His results speak for that, and a well done to improving in that area. He's going to need to do that moving forward, especially with more guys in the field. When the Lawrences come back and if Eli is back, when we have a healthy crew, it's going to be even more important to have that buckled down. But he's done a hell of a job at the end of the Supercross series.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he won 4 of the last 5 events, so a great way to close out his 2025 Supercross season and head into outdoors, right? Like, I think, if I'm looking into the future now, they have a weekend off coming up, and then we go straight into Paula for the first pro motocross round of 25. And he's your man to beat at this point, in my opinion. You're going to have Jet coming off an injury. I don't know if he's going to be at round 1 just yet, but they're going to have to get back into the racing swing, and Chase is going to be, coming off of a high of going 4 for 4 at these last rounds. So it's going to be very interesting to see.
It is. So while we're doing this 450 recap, we have a little montage. And Hector, he can roll it for us, but I think it's just basically some highlights of, how did Coop get into the position he was, and Chase get into the position that he was. But we go back, and here's San Diego. Chase goes down and gets passed by so many people. Now he comes back up through the pack and had a hell of a comeback. But this is, at the beginning of the series, a lot more guys in there. Everybody is fresh for the most part. And, that costs them. I feel like that would be awareness. Now you're going to round 5, Tampa. Take it away.
Yeah, it goes down at the end of the whoops here. So those 2 mistakes were massive, right? Like, that would have changed, I think, the end of this championship with the 9-point gap. If Chase would have come in with a 3-point gap, or 3 points down, that win would have secured it. Then he hits the gate again. That's right now we're watching replays of the 3 massive mistakes that we saw that put Chase in that points deficit that cost him, I believe, the championship in the end. You can't afford to do those type of mistakes. And it puts you under the gun, and it puts more pressure on you. And racing against a guy like Coop that doesn't make a ton of mistakes. This is his 4th one right here. Chase stalled it.
Arlington.
Arlington. Yep. Arlington. Yeah. So
last lap.
Big mistake
right here.
there. Yeah, this is going to the yeah.
Last lap. Yeah.
Geez. It's
Well, this is where, remember, like, and after the fact, he's like, no, I'm going for the win, where maybe big picture here again, if we go back to Arlington, he didn't have to pass Coop for the overall. So this could have been a determining factor. Now there's beating himself up, watching a visual of him after the race, probably knowing where he made the mistake, but he doubles down at the presser. If we have some more, keep going. I know in Indianapolis, he fell in the sand. Webb passes him for second. There you go. There's another tip over. Another thing too is Foxborough. When you go back to Foxborough, that was that was another gnarly turn of events. I mean, he had a pretty good gap on Coop, but then Coop, I mean, he got it done the last 2 laps. He's like, hey, I just need to start sending it. He was riding so slow. He's like, he was frying his bike. You know, the clutch was toast. The thing was running hot. He wasn't sure what he was going to do. She wasn't sure if the bike was going to make it. So he just starts sending it, and he goes from like 6th to 2nd in 2 laps. And then the last one where he Sexton, I think one got away from him, would be Pittsburgh. He had good speed there. Coop ran a hell of a race also, but he jumps off the track as he starts to jump through the whoops rather than blitzing him. Now, remember, he did say that the reason he started jumping these whoops because it was just taking too much strength, and how the whoops formed up that night. It was just too much. So he started jumping through there, and he saw that's what Coop was doing. So you take up all these little things, right? And little moments like that. And that's how you end up of where he was and how he just came up a little bit shy. So
yeah, I mean, you take what 3 or 4 or 5 of those mistakes. We know, I know we all know mistakes happen, but let's pull
take two of them away, and he's the champ.
Exactly. That's where I was going with it. RC is take 2 of those 5 away. We came down to Salt Lake with a 9-point gap. That would have been a different outcome more than likely if you were to take 2 of those mistakes out of the 5. So obviously he'll probably remember that going into next season for sure. You know, you got to clean up the beginning of the middle of your season, because it seems like he's got the finishing part of the season, that the closing part of the 2025 SX, like he had that dialed. He cleaned it all up. You said it, Ricky. He massively improved. The mistakes weren't there. His end of the races were very, very strong, and that's what he put himself in that position, which is a bummer.
Hey, so let's ask this. Let's answer a few fan questions. Clearly Welds, does Sexton get more respect because he didn't mess around with Coop? Where you at? Do you think he should have tried something, or I think I know it.
Nah, I think it would have been too blatant. I think Chase had Coop's number speed wise. Like I said, the last 4 rounds he went 4 for 4. Yep. He's had his number on speed. So I think if he would have tried to play any funny games with Coop, I think and ended up winning, I don't think he would have. I think the fans would have been bummed. I think Chase would have. It wouldn't have been the same championship feeling potentially. Mm-hmm. And I think long term for his career, I think taking the high road is always better.
Yeah, I honestly too. I don't know. Trying to think. I don't know how Chase would have been able to even do anything to Coop, because Coop is so good, and his awareness of who's around him. I don't like, unless he ghost rode his motorcycle, or I'm trying to think of.
Well, I think that there was I think Coop knew it, right? Coop wasn't going to put himself in that position. As you saw, I think it was off that rhythm section right before going into the whoop section. Coop made a little mistake. Chase was able to get up next to him, pass him. That either was in the heat race or the main event. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been the heat race, because I was on the line with Brax there, so we got to see that. But I don't think there was an opportunity. I think it would have been too blatant, and because I think Coop's too smart, and he wasn't gonna fight him. Coop knew where he needed to finish, and if it would have been an all-out dogfight, Coop was gonna obviously take the high road and give it to Chase. So I think it would have had to have been a very deliberate move made on Chase's part, which in hindsight would probably look very bad from the outside.
Yeah. It would have looked horrible. And with that much points, yeah, it's kind of tough.
You know, you're not talking like you said like that many 9 points. If you're talking 3-2, you know, obviously it's a close championship. Yeah, but also too, Coop's not gonna have to. He's not gonna be able to give it up either. He's gonna have to race it to the finish line, race it hard, and whatever happens at that point because you know having a small margin, 3 or so odd points. You know, it's anybody's race at that point.
That's right. So a lot of speculation. I don't think it's speculation, but it's pretty much a formality at this stage that Chase is leaving KTM and headed to Cowie. Chad M720 asks, "Is it a bad move for Chase to leave KTM?" Which, all right, RV. So he's been at Factory Honda. Now he's been at that KTM. He's gonna go. He's gonna be at Cowie. Where are you at? Is it bad? Is it good? Like,
you know,
or does it even freaking matter?
Well, number one, obviously, clearly it doesn't matter. Chase has made that decision and moving over to.
No, I'm saying, does it matter? Is it going to matter for his results?
Yeah, no. Obviously, he thinks he can do better, right? Like, or as good. I think as a rider in Chase's position, the scary part is especially when you cap off your 25 SX season with 4 wins. You know, had everybody's number on speed by quite a bit. Like, you know, you look, am I making the right decision? You know, so well, we're going to have to see. Like you know, learning a whole new team again, learning a new bike again. You know, maybe this is exactly what he needs. I think what he was riding currently, when you've said it, Ricky, I've said it, like
his bike looks good as dude.
His bike looks really, really good right now. He looks comfortable. Seems happy with it. Now I think there's a lot to that decision, obviously with KTM financial struggles earlier this year. What's the outcome going to look like when it all is wrapped up with that financial burden that KTM's pulling around? So as a whole, maybe it is the right move, you know, like, and nobody will actually know till it happens. You know, Cowie's going to throw everything, the kitchen sink at him to, you know, cause they want to win a championship. They haven't won a championship since Eli. You know, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I think I think it could be a great move for him.
Yeah.
We don't know.
It's so hard, like, to answer that question. I don't know. Like, I thought KTM. Well, I don't.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way: if they didn't have any financial issues or troubles or burdens, does Chase leave?
I think so.
I do.
So? Yeah, I do. I think that the ship had already set, maybe before they were having financial problems, or and I could be wrong. That's just my thought. I think though that, like, then when this stuff started to boil to the surface with KTM's financial situation and where they're at and how that could impact the racing, or if it would even impact the racing side of things, maybe that had part of it. But I don't know. I don't think that I don't think he's going to get on Cowie and win every single race that he enters and be extremely dominant, you know, like, especially if everyone is everyone's in the field, like Jet, Eli, Coop, and then you're going to have Haiden coming in eventually, probably next year, 450s. Like, I don't think it makes that drastic of a change, because I do think that bike that he's riding, at least from the eye test right now, looks damn good. And it'd be really hard for me to see him hop on that Cowie and be extremely better than what he is right now. Like, I don't know that the bike or any bike has that kind of ability to, right? Like, to handle that much better and produce that much more speed. I really don't. So if he's more comfortable, and then that leads to less mistakes and everything that he's learned this year, he's able to clean up the game and not do the things that we saw in the highlights that we just showed. That's where I think the difference comes from.
Yep.
And so maybe in that regard, that's where the bike will help him not make those mistakes or mental mistakes because it works better in his opinion. So that's what I think. I think all the bikes are winnable, and maybe the Cowie is just a little bit better in that area. Like, what you think?
They're gonna have pros and cons. Cowie's gonna do better somewhere on the track. KTM's gonna do better somewhere, different dirt quality, hard pack, whatever the case may be. We've talked about it before. They all have their pros and cons. And he'll at a rider, at any one of these riders at this caliber, they will expose the chink in either the team's armor or the motorcycle itself, and they'll have to fix that. It's not like he's going to go over to Cowie and there's not going to be any issues. Just like when he left Honda, he exposed issues at KTM and they had to work around that and give chase and try to get him comfortable and get him the machine that he was looking for. And Cowie's going to have the same problem too. So, you got to figure that his first 12 months over there for, 26 Supercross and 26 outdoors, I'm assuming they'll be working through some issues here or there.
Yep. It's going to be fun to see. I tell you what, though, it'll be a pretty good race team with Prado and him there, like especially outdoors. That'd be some heat right there for Factory Cowie.
Yep. I actually heard Prado hit the deck pretty hard at Glen Helen last Thursday.
Oh no, really?
But I haven't. That's all I heard. That's all I heard.
You passing the trash?
Exactly. I'm passing the rumor, starting the rumor mill. But no, I did hear he hit the deck coming into Talladega pretty good. But I haven't heard anything more than that.
Hey, before we get to the Dunlop debate, how about that battle between Mook and Mookie and Justin, dude?
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Him and AP went at it too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Pretty hard. Yeah.
Hey, I want to give a shout out. I kind of talked to Stu about this. I actually might have been on the SMX post race show, but I don't feel like Justin Cooper gets the credit that he deserves. It's his second year in the 450 class, 450 Supercross. He did well at the end of the series last year. He did a hell of a good job this year. Even when the field was stacked, he was doing really well. And I don't know. I don't ever feel like we praise him enough and give him the credit that is due. Call it what you want, but he was reliable enough both years that he's been in the 450. Dude, third in the championship, and he's so close to getting a win. I think he'll get a win eventually, but I just want to give that dude credit, bro. Like, where are you at with him? I love how he rides his bike. I think how he rides and his riding style complements a 450. He doesn't override it. He seems like he's a super tactical rider and is really planning ahead. Like, I just want to give the dude some love, man.
I agree. I agree with you, RC. I like watching him ride the motorcycle. Doesn't do anything very, very super special, but he's got a good riding style, comfortable riding style when you watch him. But yeah, he's reliable, like you said. Put himself in good positions last year, but so this year even better. I think he is on the verge of potentially his first win. But also, like, from a team's perspective, he's like your second guy that you want, right? Like he's a very valuable asset to have on a team, because I think he sets his bike up well. I think he communicates well, and I'm just looking from the outside in. I've never really spent much time with Coop or, been around him, Justin Cooper, that is, been around him very much, but just from the outside in, from a team's perspective, I think he's a huge asset, puts the bike on the podium a lot, rides well. And I think that's what they're looking for in a second rider.
Yeah. I think he did a hell of a job. And I'm stoked for him. So good job, Jay Coop, on that. Dunlop debate. Guess what? The scoop tire is going to be coming out, I feel like, If you're, like we're talking about tires, you think they're using the scoop at Pala for the start?
I think they will be using the scoop. That's for sure. We'll be seeing that a lot. It's just we saw it a lot in Supercross. Not so much this year as we did last year. I don't think, right? Or was it earlier this season we saw it? But
Maybe
yeah. But I think last year we was a big topic. We talked about it a lot.
Daytona, wasn't it Daytona?
Yeah, and I think they ran
Eli
it
ran it at
Chicago
Daytona, maybe?
too. Didn't they run it at Chicago or wherever? We had a really hard pack race, or Dallas. Maybe it was Dallas SMX. They ran it. And we were all shocked about it. But no, outdoors pro motocross is coming around. That's going to be a very desirable tire to have, and Dunlop has them covered. That's for sure.
All right. So the Dunlop debate is Cooper Webb among the list of best ever. Do you think he is?
Yeah, dude. He's there. So I took some notes right here. There's 6 riders with 3 or more championships in the 450 class. He's now the 7th rider to enter that in 50 years. So yes, he's among rare air. He is one of the best to ever do it. Like you obviously have your category. You RC probably, I would say, I mean, not arguably, but you're you're at the top step. Then MC. I kind of fall around that 3rd, 4th. There's only so many of us in that category, and I consider him being one of them. Eli's one of them too. When you win your 3rd championship, like Coop did in that fashion, that style, that pure grit, determination, that's not easy to find in an athlete.
It's not. It's and sometimes I feel like, we can talk about the attributes of yourself, me, MC, Stanton, Hannah, RD, the guys that were the 6 and now 7 with Coop entering that room after his championship this week in Salt Lake. Some of those things I think are hard to teach. The mental capacity and how you're able to manage championships. Some things just come naturally. I
agree. I like when you get to that position, even later in your 250 career, you're still learning a lot of things. You're still being exposed to a lot of things, but you should kind of be on the trajectory that you need to be if you're going to be a premier, long-lasting 450 rider. But yeah, like once you get to Coop's position, like yeah, you can get fitter. You can clean up this. You can improve the motorcycle, but it's some of those things you just can't teach, and some of those things also just come from experience that you learn, and you may not even be thinking that you're learning it, but eventually 3 years, 4 years down into your career, you're not making those same mistakes or doing some of the similar things that maybe have hurt you in the past. But no, he's in rare air, that's for sure. He's the 7th rider in 50 years to have 3 or more championships.
Yeah. And it's gnarly is how we did ours in succession, where his wasn't like that. I mean, we talked about at the top of the show, is it easier, what's harder, winning them back to back to back, or when you have a gap in between? And he's had a gap and multiple gaps in between his RV.
And inside of that
19, 21, and 20.
Too.
Yeah.
Inside of that team. So what'd you say, Ray? It was 19, 20,
19, 21, and 25. But if you go back to 25, okay, he was ahead of, or no. If you go back to 23, when he got hurt in Nashville, remember that? He got ran over by AC and hit his head and messed up his shoulder. He was only, I think we had 4 races to go. And he had a hook in Eli, and I think it was going to go. My personal opinion, I think it was going to go down to the wire, and I think Coop had a really good chance to win that championship over Eli. It was going to come down to, I think it was going to come down to a mental game. And listen, dude, I'm just speculating here because Eli in the back of his mind would be not taking Cooper lightly, even though maybe Coop wasn't the fastest, but he's that dog, and mentally he is one of the best guys. That we've seen in a very, very, very long time. One of the best. That's why he's in the group of 7 champions now. So he almost wins that. So that would have been 23. But again, he got hurt. But it's gnarly how he finally comes back and he does it again against gnarly competition. Dude, it's crazy. That's why it's debate to be one of the best.
Yep, I think so. I don't know. Like, the question was, is it easier to go string them together, or is it hard? Is it easier to have them broke up in different years, having some years in between that are missed? I don't know. I never was in that position, but I think to have what would you say was 21 to 25?
Yeah,
Right.
21 was his last one until this year.
Yeah, so a 4-year gap. That's a pretty damn big gap to
With injuries in there.
and a rebound from. Yeah, so very, very impressive. Coop rode well. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. I thought his podium speech was spot on too. Like, keep digging, keep trying. For everybody out there that thinks it may be over, like, I thought that was cool to see. I think he now currently sits. I read this stat the other day. Eli was the oldest at 29 and 5 months and whatever else. I think now I believe Coop is the oldest rider at 29 and whatever 6 months or whatever he is to hold that 450 plate, number 1 plate, 2025 SX champ in the 450 class. So that's pretty cool. I think that's a cool stat.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard me tell the story, but at the end, coming down to the wire, or coming down to the end of the 450 main event, and I'm going to share this story on the podcast in case you didn't watch the Supercross race. Coop and what he had to deal with this year, just as another incredible fact and an element that what he was faced with. And I don't know how many other riders mentally could have pulled this off and what they were faced with. But on December 5th, he had a practice crash with Davies, just by accident, and going through a rhythm section of all things. And long story short, he tore his UCL in his thumb again, that he tore, that was injured the year in 24, remember, and he didn't race Salt Lake City, I believe it was, and had it, took time off for that. Was told that he needed surgery, and he only rode twice before Anaheim won. Team wanted him to have the surgery and have it fixed, and he told the team, like, no, let me get through the first 3 races and see what happens. I think he got on the podium at San Diego, maybe, and or one of those races, and was doing well. And here he is now, and how it played out. It basically healed itself. But to come in to the season already banged up and pretty much like, okay, well, let's just see what happens these 3 races, dude, that's incredible. And for the Dunlop debate, it just makes it even more, solidifies even more that he's well deserving to be one of the best and be in the club that we're in. So
and I think I was out at the goat farm, or Stars place now. What was it, 2 weeks ago ish now?
That's right.
And I talked to Coop, and that's what he had filled me in, told me, like, tore it again. And he was wearing like this, it's like a thumb brace. It's kind of like a hard plastic deal. Like, he wasn't riding with tape or nothing at all. He had a specific kind of brace made that, and why I'm saying this is he's got something on his, I think it's his throttle hand, right? I think it's his throttle hand, maybe. Yeah. But whatever, regardless, he's wearing an added thing around his thumb, which is that much harder to ride with. You have to change your grip, the way you hold onto the bike, the way you maybe even ride the bike a little bit. So, a testament to him digging, fighting, telling the team to pump their brakes. Wait a second. Let me see if I can get, let's see what happens after these first 3 rounds, see where I'm at. And then managing that injury through 17 rounds and not falling over and jamming your thumb or catching something wrong and having it come back up through the handlebar and having more issues. So dude's quick on his feet, smart, that's for sure.
Yep. All right. So Quad Lock question of the week. If you haven't, check out quadlockcase.com. Good stuff. They sponsor quite a few people. They're dipping into F1, but they just brought on Deegs to the team. So he's a Quad Lock athlete. But the Quad Lock question of the week, and the winner of the Quad Lock question of the week is JT JT Merp 02. Congratulations, JT Merp 02, on winning the quad lot question of the week. And this is a tough one, and I absolutely suck at making these kind of decisions. Of what the winning question is. So, if you haven't fall into the DM at Title 24, I'm sure JH has already contacted you. I say it every week, but we appreciate it. All right. So the question is, if you were a team manager, who would you pay big money to get you wins in 2026 and beyond? You
Go.
want to go first, or you want me to go?
Yeah, I mean, the problem we have right here is, and you may know more than me, but that's a tough question to answer when who's up, who's in contract.
Well, no, let's just role play and just say
Okay.
who you pick. Go for like 26 and beyond. Who you gonna hand the basket to?
Dude, I'm gonna have to go with Jet for right now for the 450 class, right? Like, and why I say that is I don't know. Like, look, we have Eli coming back. He says he wants to keep racing. It sounds like, Hayden's gonna move into that spot. Where does Eli land? Nobody knows just yet. But with Jet's current track record and skill, I'm gonna go with Jet for the 450 class.
Wow. Dude, you're throwing it out there. See,
Yeah.
now you just pissed off everybody else.
I know.
Like,
Well,
that's
what I'm here for.
You only talk about Jet and him only, and only praise him, right?
Only praise him. Yeah, that's all I do. Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
dude. I mean, obviously, you're not a fool you wouldn't be a fool for doing that. He's got a shitload of talent. He's in incredible shape. He's got a good group of guys and inner team around him. And are privy to a lot more than others, and that would be a damn good pick. I wrote some notes here, dude. I said,
let's hear it.
I suck at picking these things. And the reason that I do is because anything can happen. And I look at it this way. So, like, and you've seen it, RV, throughout your amateur career, and then you make that jump from am to professional, and then the jump from the lights 250 class to the 450, the premier class. There's so many guys that you would think were going to dominate when they made the jump from amateur to pro. Boom, didn't happen. So many guys that made the jump from the 250 class to the 450 class. Boom, didn't happen. Dude, I didn't even know who Justin Cooper was until the year before he went pro. That's an example. Now, the guys that he raced against in amateurs, I knew all about. So that's it's so hard to make that pick because you just don't know how the dude's going to pan out once they make that jump. Sometimes they don't make that jump and make that advancement, and they get stuck in a rut. I think Deegan would be a good pick.
Yeah,
I think
he'd be a great pick too.
Deegan would be a good pick because he's got that eye of the tiger. He finds a way to win. Does he? Like, for me personally, would he need some polishing up? That I think some things are a distraction, possibly, but that makes him also. Like, looking at both sides. Jet, I mean, you'd be a fool not to hire him. Are there things that I think could be a problem? Like outside noise. I said it from the beginning. I think the biggest thing for those guys is maintaining, like not letting the outside noise distract them.
And I think both of those two, which I think are kind of at this point the future of the 450 class. Jet Hayden's going to step in, very soon. Jet's still young, just coming off of an injury, so I think that's like recharged his batteries, so he'll be in the sport for quite a while, if I had to predict. But yeah, those two, that outside noise, they both have a lot of outside noise, both of those athletes, both of those racers, but they're also very marketable. So like, who do you hire? As a team manager or a team owner, you want to hire a marketable rider also. Like, that's where the sport's gone. It's not just how many race wins can you win, but you're a pain in the ass to deal with, or you're this or that, or whatever the case may be. It's having a package. In today's world, you have to have a package. You have to be marketable, and you also have to produce.
Yeah. Great job, dude. Yeah, you're better at picking that. You're better at picking that than me. And because I always like, dude, how pissed are you if you hire Jet or Haiden, the guys that we mentioned, and then they get hurt, or you go hire Eli and then the same thing happens. So it's like, that's why I suck at picking this, because it's just,
and I think
injuries.
you can't pick a rider based on dude, you don't know who's going to get hurt and what's going to happen. Our sport is what it is. We watch Jet dab his foot, boom, ACL, go get it fixed. Right. So you don't pick any of these riders based on, typically you don't pick any of these riders based on, what if he gets hurt, right? The goal is not to get hurt, but it can be a brutal sport sometimes.
The hell you don't. I do. I freaking we had RCH and we had dudes like, well, this guy's gotten hurt. This guy.
Well, I think so. Yeah, for sure. Like that, you do look at a stats, a record standpoint. Like, okay, I'll throw this one out there. Like if I'm a team and I'm looking at lights riders, for example, and Austin Faulkner's on that list. Like super fast, super quick, likable guy, but dude ends up on the ground all the time. It typically crashes more times than not and has put himself in a bad position. So yes, you do look at that. But I think when you are hiring the premier class riders that have a chance to win and win championships, I think you kind of you look past that.
You go, yeah. I agree. All right. Well, congratulations, JT Merp 02. Also, JT is a 15-year law enforcement vet. He's been following the sport for 25 years and a listener from the beginning. Thanks for your law enforcement, 15 years in law enforcement and first responder. We appreciate you putting in the good work. And thank you for being a listener from day one to Title 24 and supporting RV and myself and the podcast. We're glad you enjoy it. And congratulations. I know you will love your quad lock swag. Dude, that's about it. So you talked about it. You got regionals coming up, but hold up. I got to do some housekeeping here. Pro Motocross Championship. I know you love Pro Motocross Championship. Hector, roll the graphics on that big dog, and here's the schedule. All right, the 24th of May, Fox Raceway, Pala, coming up here in 2 weeks' time. Thunder Valley, that's going to be on NBC. Hangtown is before that. High Point, the Wick, Redbud. Which one of yours is the favorite of this schedule that you see right here?
RC, I don't see mine on there. Davey, where's Bud's Creek Glen Helen at? No, I would say
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Yeah. Out of our list here, I always really liked Bud's Creek was a favorite. Unadilla was a favorite for me. Redbud was always pretty good. Let's see here.
Did you do Crawfordsville?
Never got to race Crawfordsville. Nope. GNCC last year.
Oh, that's right. You're at Ironman. You did Ironman.
Yep. So I've never been there for the Pro National though. But out of the list that we have right here, out of these 11 rounds that we're looking at, I would say Bud's Creek was probably one of my favorites. Obviously, everybody knows 2011. Myself, you, Tim Ferry, Bud's Creek. So I always did well there. Redbud's always good. Also, but as everybody knows, what's the weather like leading in? Has it been dry? Has it been hot? Has it been raining coming in? The beauty of our racing is you can show up one year at any one of these tracks and it's epic. And you'll show up the year after that and you're like, man, what happened? It wasn't as good. So it all depends on weather. But typically our track guys do amazing jobs. Getting these pro motocross tracks ready to go race.
I like Redbud. Loved Bud's Creek at the beginning. Millville for sure. Those are the ones.
RC, I don't know about you, but I kind of I look at the new Millville track, and a lot of the way that kind of some of the tracks are going. Even Redbud itself, I watch, anytime the kids have something on YouTube, it'll I'll get a glance of it. I kind of like the older layouts better, especially at Millville, Redbud. I kind of liked when it went like Redbud, for example, Larocco's Leap, and it went into that hard left-hander, sharp left.
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, we had fast sections when we raced, but we also had very slow turns. Remember Millville, for example, also the finish line was in that hard right-hander.
Hard left, right. Yep.
Yeah, so I kind of like that when where it's fast, but then it breaks it down really slow. It's one line. It's, I think a lot of the tracks back in the day that you used to race, it started changing once I turned pro in 06. Yeah. But, they've made them bigger, faster, wider, which are all great things. But I also like areas where it really breaks it down, where it's really slow technical.
Yeah. I did too. Like, that's the one thing to your point, like when you see the tracks, they're definitely more sweeping corners, not tight corners where you can really make up time getting in and out. How hard do you get into the corner? How hard do you get out of the corner? Them being faster, I feel like makes it harder to make up time on your competitors, just because of the sweeping corners that everyone can maintain a relatively close speed. And they are fast, less corners, it seems like. I do like the older designs better, especially you talk about like Redbud, Millville. There was a Redbud one. Me and Stu had a hellacious battle there one time. I can't remember if it was...
Was that the one where last lap Moto 2, he catches the front brake on?
No, that was 07. Might have been, it was either 06 or 05. Maybe 05. It's one of those, dude. That design was epic. It was so much fun. A lot of corners, all that stuff. So I agree. So it's going to be exciting. Again, we got a lot of riders returning. Looks like the Lawrence brothers are coming. Hopefully ET will be back. And for the 250, we got some more riders coming in. Kitchen's going to be back in there, I believe. So that's great. So a lot to look forward to. It's going to be exciting, and I definitely will be tuned in. No doubt. That's it, dude. That's it for the show. I'm going to go give you a break. You worked your tail off. You were wide open. Thanks to all of our great sponsors, United Motorsports, Quadlock, Boxo, Dunlop, and of course, Cardo Systems for coming along and joining the ride here midway through the season. We appreciate you guys. We'll be doing some BTS scenes, Motocross Championship with them on there, with them on board. So stacking them up. It's been a great Supercross season so far. Right, RV? It's going to be good. Been fun.
And I'm looking forward to outdoors, every time, even as a fan, you get, okay, it's time to move on. Let's wrap up Supercross. Let's head to outdoors, get different scenery, different racing, all that. So I'm looking forward to watching outdoors on the broadcast.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. You can check us out on Motorsports on NBC's YouTube page. We're there. We're on Peacock, always live, or not live, but on demand on Peacock. So we're there. If you want to watch some old shows where we had guests, bring it on. And then we are on all the podcast applications. So if you only want to listen to the audio version, we're there as well. Everybody have a good week. Again, we appreciate all your support that you give RV and I, and we'll see you next week. Phew.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.